Welcome back to Livie's Lovelies, your inspirational craft channel, and I'm your host, Fam the Fabulous. For more ideas, inspiration, swaps, and challenges, click the link in the description below to join our craft community, the Maker Exchange, on Facebook. Welcome back to the Lovely Lab. All right, guys, so today we will be working on our pockets and tuck spots for the gratitude journal that we've started. Now, if you're new to the channel or to the series and you want to get in on the action and create a gratitude journal for yourself or someone you care about, there'll be a link in the right-hand corner that you can click. That'll take you to the playlist, and the first video will give you a list of supplies that you'll need. They're very minimal. Probably you'll not have to spend more than $2, and that will be the composition notebook if you don't already have one in your home. All right, so also if you're new to the channel, welcome. You may want to go ahead and hit the subscribe button and the notification bell now so that you won't miss any of the crafty uploads. And if you are a current subscriber, thanks so much for coming back. Thanks for commenting, liking, sharing, and being a part of this lovely community. All right, now, without further ado, let me just share with you where I am at in this. And I wanted to hop on before I went any further, because sometimes just to walk through the process helps you better understand what to do. So first off, let me just say, starting with a 12 by 12, I have created a pocket for the inside of the journal. Okay, so notice that the other side is not covered, and that's going to happen probably a little closer to the end. But I knew that if I started now, there's a chance that it may get a little bit of wear in here, along with the the gluing and so on and so forth. And so I'm reserving that part of the process for the very end, and I'm not sure whether or not I want to include a pocket or a tuck spot on the inside cover. So again, I'm just doing the inside covers last. I started with the outside cover and I'm ending with the inside covers. And so again, I started with a 12 by 12 sheet of paper. You may have 8.5 by 11. Either way, it'll be fine, because the composition notebooks, I believe, are 10 inches tall, a little under 10 inches tall. So using the half, actually what I did was I took the 12 by 12, I cut it in half, so that gave me 6 inches, okay? With that 6 inches, which stops right about here, what I did was I folded it in half, and now I have a pocket for two pockets essentially. Now you can also use that same technique and use the pocket. You cut the 6 inches in half and create a pocket here. The only other problem that you might have is that if you are using a closure similar to mine, it'll obstruct this closure. So I wanted to hold off again on putting anything on the inside cover, because I wasn't sure what type of how I would cover that and whether or not I was going to have a pocket. So anyway, so we have the 6 inches. I folded mine in half. Before I glued it in, I went on ahead and stitched on each side of the 6 inches. So if it was opened up, let me go ahead and cut this one so that you'll understand what I'm saying. When it's opened up, what you get is 2 sides, and depending on your pattern, because as you can see, let me move this out the way just for a second, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. 6 inches. I hope everybody's doing all right out there in the crafty community. As I mentioned before, I am getting over the flu and pneumonia, so I'm just slowly getting back into my crafting, and it took me a little longer than I had hoped, but it's okay. I'm back now, and I'm ready to get started. So I took this and I folded it in half, and which I'll do here. Now this is cut a little bit off angled, so I'm not worried about that. I'm not worried about slight imperfections because guess what? It's handmade. This isn't a factory. All right, so depending on your pattern or imaging is going to determine where you'll put your stitching, if you in fact want to put stitching in your journal. So you're going to do that ahead of time because this is a little too cumbersome to try and sew while it's in the book. So your best bet is to have a stitched effect. It's not going to actually be stitched into the book unless you don't mind doing that. So here we are with the 10, or the 6 inches folded in half. Now again, you can cut this and use each panel in your book however you want to, but I found that it was simply easier to fold it in half and glue it onto a couple of pages. Actually, I secured a couple pages together and do it that way so that I am it's just easier. You know. So we know that the book is a little under 10 inches. So what I'm going to do is, this is 12 inches. So I'm going to cut off 2 inches. Okay. I'm going to cut off the excess 2 inches. And this little piece here you can still use for a tuck spot. Okay. So we've got this. Now, if this was you, you would want to stitch along here, around in a square. So I'll go ahead and do that. I want to start with this edge. All right, bear with me, folks. Thanks for joining me. And again, if you don't have, if you're not using a sewing machine for your journal, you can always add some visual interest by faux stitching or like doodling around the edge. All right. So now, one thing I've noticed about my sewing machine, because it is not the most, it's not the fanciest, is that I kind of have to go slow when I'm stitching on paper because it has a tendency to skip a stitch. Every once in a while I find that I'm skipping stitches when I go too fast. So be sure to take note whether or not that's something that your sewing machine, if you have a little bit more of an advanced sewing machine, maybe you don't have to worry about it. But mine, it's a Brothers LX 2763. I think I paid about $100 for it. So it skips. And there is some skipping in throughout my, I'll show you on the one of the other ones. Now I'm not going to go all the way up to the edge because I remember this book is not 10 inches tall. It's a little shorter than that. So I'm going to leave a little room for some to be cut off. And if the stitch isn't where it needs to be, it's perfectly fine. We'll work it out. And I'm using the black thread just so I can get that contrast, which again adds a little bit of visual interest to the project. Back that up. All right. And please, my friends, do not worry about being perfect. We're humans. Perfection is not our calling. And I promise this part of the process is not going to take that long. I'm just doing a little stitching to show you what the effect will be. And just to let you see how simple it is, because it's not that serious. promise you, it's just not that serious. All right, so now we have two sides that are stitched. All right, so I have another journal in front of me. It sits on my desk, and it's for what's it for? It's for, I'm going to put this one towards the back. Now I double up pages. And one more thing I might add is that in your journal, you may want to cut out about, if you plan to use this as some form of an art journal and you feel as though you'll be adding additional papers to it, you may want to cut out from here, right where that red line is at, on the opposite side of that red line, cut out about 10 pages. And that'll help reduce some of the bulk. You can do more, but I would suggest, if you plan on because it's going to add bulk and you don't want it to be so thick that you can't close it or it's creating stress for your closures. So having that being said, we're going to go forth and move on and show you how to add this in here. So again, I have the two sheets, and on the other one I went on ahead and glued it down. I just used the glue stick to combine the two pages, and it does make it a little bit, I'm going to change up the glue stick. It does make it a little bit, give it a wavy pattern, but it's not that big a deal. It's a journal, folks. And you can always add a sheet of paper on top of that just to cover that up if you would like. So I am just gluing this sheet so that I can lay the following sheet on top of it, or the page in front of it, and kind of careful that I can get the edges without getting the next page. Those glue sticks do come in handy. And make sure that that is okay. Now what we'll do is, don't worry about the strings. It's not that, you can cut those off at the end. Now we'll go ahead and add the sheet. And as you can see, let me make sure I'm in. There's just a little bit left over. So remember, 10 inches is really all you need. And be sure to make sure that your stitching is within that. I think it's 9 3/4 is the size. Let me be approximate here for you. It's 9 3/4. Okay, so you make sure that your stitches are within that 9 3/4 length. So then I just take my Eileen's tacky glue, and I'm just gluing the stitches that it helps keep them secure. So that they don't pull out. Notice where I glued at the top and the bottom only. And so the top and the bottom glued. I'll go ahead and line this up on the sheet, making sure that the edge meets the fold. I'll bring this down just a bit. And then you press that in place. And it's just that simple, folks. It is just that simple. Now, one thing I want to make sure I add is that you definitely want to have a piece of paper underneath any area that you're gluing, so that you don't accidentally glue your pages to the page underneath it. It's going to happen. It will happen if you don't, especially if you're using a wet glue, because sometimes it pours over the edge. Okay, and you don't want to be too stingy on the wet glue, but if you're using a heavier cardstock, you can afford to be generous with the glue. But if you're using, say, like just pattern paper, and it's a little bit thinner, then you you don't want it to warp too bad, so you don't have the ability to be as generous. But I will say, depending on whatever, if you're using a tacky glue, you don't need that much for just patterned paper. You do want it for you want it a little bit more for the heavier cardstock, okay? And that's what I'm using. So we have that. That's one pocket. And I'm just going to make sure to wipe both sides. So as you can see, don't worry about that. We will cover that up or cut it out. So on this side, we have Lovely. And on this side, we have just that image there, okay? So what's left? We have this. And we also have this. Let me open that up so it can continue to dry. And also make sure that you are lining this up, because as you can see, this is poking out a little bit, and that's because I didn't push that in enough. And I'm not going to be able to because I've already secured it. But it's fine. It's just a journal. And I'm probably going to add a little lace along the edge anyways. So this is what we have left. We have 6 by 12. And then we have the 2 by 6 left. So now, what can we do with that? Plenty. Now, what I did with this, the black and white, was I cut that. This is what you have here. This was the 6 inches. Let's see if I can reconstruct that. I think it went like that. So I just cut them into thirds, and I wanted to keep this part. So this will be a pocket. Actually, it'll go this way. A tuck spot, if you will. This will be a tuck spot, and this will be a tuck spot. So let me just show you how I cut those. So if I was to duplicate what I just did, it would look something like this. And I don't need to be approximate, exact. You can just eyeball it. Okay, and then you can stitch around those edges. So you have, from that, you have 1 pocket, 3 tuck spots, and you can probably use this at the end for a cluster. So hold on to that. That's what we have. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and glue the black and white ones that have already stitched around. And go ahead and glue those in. So because I'm going to also use the pink set, I'm not going to glue all of the black and white in the front. I'm going to glue it throughout. So I'll just show you how I'm doing a couple. I'm making sure that I have the stitch edged along the part of the pocket that I'll be accessing most. And that's just to ensure that the stitching is going to help to add a little bit more stability to that pocket. One more thing I want to add is, and I'm going to show you in just a second. So I'm going to go ahead and glue the outer edge. Make sure you get those corners very well. This isn't really where I wanted this, but it's fine. Actually, let me take that out. And then I'm going to cut this out. Mistakes happen, guys, and I'm so glad you're here to witness that. And what I'll do is I will take my glue stick and glue that down so that it is not in the way. Okay, now let me put that towards the back. And there's still, let me just put a little bit more glue on here. It's just paper. Mistakes happen, but you can always undo them or redo. All right, so here's what I wanted to show you guys. Once you flip, if you flip over that page, notice this corner. Can you see that corner there? You'll need to take your scissors and cut around the corners. Cut the corner off in that curve, because the pages on the composition notebooks are curved. And you'll do that for the same thing you'll do for your pockets. The only difference is that you're going to need to take the edge from the previous pages and use it to line it up, to cut off the excess and to create that curved edge. It doesn't need to be perfect, but you do want the curved edge. And towards the end is when you're going to go through and fine tune everything. So don't worry that anything is sticking out now or anything like that, because if you plan on using lace around the edge, then you will want to, this isn't even going to matter whether or not it's perfect or not. Okay. So we've got that pocket put in, and then we'll do the same for this one. Now this one is going to be along the edge, and it's going to go up high. And then this one I can probably, well, this one is going to go down low like that. I'll just use it as a, and then this one will go this way. All right, so I'll go ahead and put that in. Okay. I hope you guys are enjoying this this series. I'm enjoying making it. I wish I had more time to dedicate to it, but you know, homeschool, manage the family's business, and I'm back in real estate. So I am doing my best to continue to provide you guys with the content without falling behind on the stuff that I have to do on a daily basis around here to keep the family afloat. You know, I do love my family as well as you do, I'm sure. All right, so we'll put another one back here in between those two sheets that we're using. That's enough tucks and pockets for the journals, I feel. Now, if you want more, then feel free to pull out an extra sheet. But you know, just be aware that it's going to add bulk to your journal, as well as the contents that you put inside of those pockets, be it a journaling card or you know, prayer lists and sheets and whatever have you that you may be adding to your journal for your own personal use. Okay. Remember, I think this does not have to be perfect, guys. Please don't aim for perfection. Aim for pretty. I'm kidding. You know, do as you may. You know, I know we all have our own idiosyncrasies. So some of us need to have everything lined up, and some of us like it a little grungy. I myself, I'm not going to be that worried about it. I just like to create. All right. So remember, we still have this last one here, and we're going to go ahead and cut that off, and we'll use this as part of, use this little scrap here for one of our last clusters, because if you can recall, in our clusters enclosures video, we made about 6 or 8 clusters out of the scraps that we had from our covers. And so, and I told you that when we make the tucks in the pockets, that we probably would have some additional pieces left over. And so, as I predicted, here we are. So we'll, towards the end, as we're decorating, we'll probably put some more clusters together, or you can go ahead and use this now to create your own clusters. But with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and finish up adding some stitching to these, and you'll see what I add, you know, these pockets and tucks that I add in the next video, which will be I think it's the decorating part. Anyways, just stay tuned, guys, and thanks so much for watching. Until we're back here again on YouTube, be sure to stay blessed, stay encouraged, stay creative, and crafting. Bye for now. If you enjoyed this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. Hit subscribe to join the crafty community, and be sure to click the bell for notifications of new uploads. Thank you so much for watching. Now stay tuned for more from Livie's Lovelies, your inspirational craft channel. Bye for now.